Welcome to a new Daily Top Askreddit video. Today's topic.
If someone called you and said, turn on the TV, it doesn't matter what channel, what would you expect has happened? The last time I said that it was 9/11. Yes, I worked the night shift at an airport and had only been home an hour at best. Almost asleep. Didn't own a TV but had an old VHS receiver recorder connected to a vintage Commodore monitor. Turned that on to see the second plane hit. Got dressed and headed to my mom's just in time to see the tower fall. Insane times. This comment is the most 2001 thing I've ever read in my life. This should be in the Smithsonian. Nuclear weapon dropped. Genuinely surprised this isn't number one. It's my first thought by a mile. A lot of us experienced it with 9/11, so we think terrorism of some form. Death of a major world leader or invasion of a Tier 1 world city. I was in England when the Queen died. It was very much on every channel for days. I was on holiday in Spain and woke up and just put the TV on whilst laying in bed with our daughter. It was literally on every single channel, from the English-speaking ones to the Spanish ones. I accidentally time-traveled back to 20 years ago when cable TV was still relevant in my life. I think the modern equivalent would be, open up social media. Doesn't matter which one. Quote, imagine learning about 9/11 on Tinder. The internet was down for everyone. That would explain why phone calls and TV news were suddenly relevant again, to be fair. If the internet were down, a decent percentage of folks wouldn't even have access to phone calls or TV. Aliens showing up or a nuke going off, otherwise shit is so fucked I don't think anything is newsworthy enough to show up. But also no way most of these channels are even modifying programming for that. The aliens could be landing and I very much doubt some children's TV channel will cut to live footage of the event. On 9/11, many family-safe channels, not necessarily for kids, put up messages like this. Due to the nature of today's tragic events, Food Network is suspending programming. Our thoughts go out to the victims and their families. Of course they were headquartered in NYC, they probably sent their employees home. But it was completely not a news channel. I was skipping school on 9/11, watching Stickin' Around and Hamtaro on YTV. Didn't know shit about it until a school employee came and picked me up to force me to go. Someone orange has died. RIP, Carrot Top. Had a friend who retorted, Carrot Tops are green. He may have been self-owning, we were 12. Nice try, TV license detection team. This was exactly what my mom said when she called me the morning of 9/11. I was in Alaska, so everything happened before most of us woke up. She also added, it's horrible. Something catastrophic like a natural disaster or terrorist attack of some sort. Most natural disasters wouldn't even rise to that level. It would have to be something extremely rare and probably unanticipatable. Like even the worst hurricane in history probably wouldn't solicit that response, but maybe if Mt. Rainier erupted it would. Meteor about to hit Earth. A big one, AM 9.0 plus Cascadia quake devastating half of the west coast would probably qualify for this. Or assassination of a political figurehead. Or a mass casualty event of significant magnitude. That's more than the daily mass casualty events. That's more than the daily mass casualty event. Hello fellow American. I'd say an example of what you're looking for would be the Las Vegas concert shooting would come close. I know the people I was with at the time were all locked on their screens. And it was heavily discussed. That whole thing is still unexplained in my opinion. We had the hero, security guard Jesus Campos that saved the day, but when he went on Ellen, she basically answered for him and led him. Then he was never seen again. You'd think more news outlets would want to interview him. What an insane thing to happen that no one talks about anymore. Trump expired. I'd assume it means Trump openly attacked a city and that civil war had finally started. I feel like civil war has already started. Trump has used the military on what, 3 to 4 major American cities already. Don't need the TV for that, you'll hear the singing and dancing in the streets. The obituary heard round the world. I only browse popular waiting for the right obituary. I check every single day. The Spanish Inquisition returned. Nobody would expect it. Spanish Inquisition to Electric Boogaloo. War were declared. This hamgum is all bones. We get signal. Main screen turn on. Somebody set up us the bomb. Alien invasion. If only. He died. https://preview.red.it/ive-been-holding-onto-this-for-a-while-v0-f for 6kn4x4mf1.jpg auto equals webp and s equals 80649527446576b89b079 cfca1d81f8c26 ac11f. The French. We all remember where we were the day the French started out a normal day until I looked outside, and the French. Lyle. They hit the Pentagon! Exclamation mark. They hit the fucking Pentagon, Lyle. Yeah, my thought would be that they had just watched an One Plays Animated or something LMAO. They did the same bit in Smiling Friends and a new episode came out, so that's probably why we got this thread. I think 9/11 is the only time every single channel broadcast a single event. I remember on that day the only channels not broadcasting it were the kids' TV stations and a few that simply said they had gone off air out of respect. The last massive world-changing news event was Elizabeth II dying. That wasn't on every channel. I imagine the only event that would cause such an event would be another massive terrorist attack, God forbid, or Trump dying. I feel like Princess Diana's death was also on all of the stations, but I was very young at the time, so that could absolutely be a false memory. 9/11 is definitely the only time in my lifetime that I can say with certainty replaced all of the regularly scheduled programming. I remember Di being every channel, but to be fair I had about 7 channels. This has been talked about a lot, notably on Hot Ones with Alton Brown. Food Network was one of the only channels that kept airing its regular schedule after 9/11. People tuned in droves just for something different. This led to the pivot to competition shows and more casual stuff than the older stuff where they literally taught you how to cook. Not an important impact, but definitely an impact of that day. That's interesting to know. I remember channel surfing and everything was either rebroadcasts of the news or a message showing they had closed down for the day. My local cable company added NY1 for several weeks afterwards so we could follow updates from New York City. At this point, maybe the big, beautiful obituary. They had a long day at work and can barely function. Can confirm husband and I take turns saying this to each other after putting our toddler down. Lol, thanks for your reply. I misunderstood the GP as saying they were so tired they forgot TV channels aren't really a thing anymore. You cleared it up and made me lol. Last time it was 9/11. And before that, it was the Challenger, the death of Princess Diana and the Berlin Wall coming down. Today, dead president. 10 years ago, terrorist attack. Either World War III or aliens. Sorry, it's story time. 9/11, I wake up to the phone ringing. It's our friend, roommate situation, Skeeter, who said exactly that the second I answered. Turn on the TV, any channel, right now. Wake everyone up. That's how I watched The Jumpers. It was the first thing I saw and I will never forget it. Edit, now I would assume WWII. Same, my brother came upstairs, turned on the TV and came to wake me up. Get up, 2 planes hit the World Trade Center towers. Just at that same time, my husband called and said, turn on the TV, we're at war. I am glad my brother got to me like 30 seconds before, because my husband, aka Chicken Little, actually managed to make it sound even worse than it was. He was right, though. We were at war very shortly after. A big beautiful obituary. A man goes to a local newsstand every day to buy a paper. Every day he glances at the front page, looks disappointed, and throws the paper away. Why do you always throw away the paper after reading the front page? The newsstand owner asks, I'm looking for an obituary, he replies, but you haven't even opened the paper, the obituaries aren't on the first page, the owner says. The man frowns. The one I'm looking for will be. Terry's finally brought back the pyramid. I would assume that Russia or China had finally gone nuclear, but the announcement of peace in the Middle East would be a similarly big event and at least be positive. The announcement of peace in the Middle East would be a similarly big event and at least be positive. Peace in the Middle East would be a huge deal, but its announcement. I don't know, I'd probably not trust it and move on with my day. Not a fan of Russia or China, but the truth is that they do not want a nuclear war, they just have nuclear weapons as a last resort as US does. They do know there are no winners in a nuclear war. A strange game. The only winning move is not to play. Someone just watched Smiling Friends and/or Psychic Pebbles and was quoting it as a joke. LMAO, I was going insane trying to find another person who noticed this. Took forever for me to find this comment. Tears of joy. The morning of 9/11 I said my roommate through her door and she turned on the TV to Family Ties. I've always known that Alex Keaton was a terrorist. It assumed that I am Lyle and Zach told me they hit the Pentagon. He's dead. Either Trump has been assassinated or aliens have invaded. My very first thought was, oh, no, did another plane hit a building? I think 9/11 has scarred a lot of us beyond repair. Hopefully that thing that everybody wants to happen. A modern-day, modernized, instance of the classic Max Headroom incident from 1987. On the 22nd of November 1987, an unidentified person wearing a Max Headroom mask and costume carried out broadcast signal hijacking of 2 television stations in Chicago, Illinois. During each signal interruption, the hijacker speaks with distorted audio and stands before a swiveling corrugated panel to mimic Max Headroom's geometric background effect. During the second signal hijacking, he referenced Max Headroom's endorsement of Coca-Cola, the TV series Clutch Cargo, WGN anchor Chuck Swirsky, and All the Greatest World Newspaper Nerds, a reference to WGN's call letters, which stand for World's Greatest Newspaper. The first, Max Headroom incident, was 25 seconds during the sports segment of WGN TV's 9 p.m. news broadcast. Approximately 2 hours later, the second signal hijacking was about 90 seconds during PBS affiliate WTTW's broadcast of Doctor Who, The Horror of Fang Rock. The second video ended with the hijacker apparently exposing buttocks and being spanked with a fly swatter. Normal programming then quickly resumed. These video pirates have never been identified. Quote,